be a screw, feel my own adrenaline. Yeah, I do just what I do, and I hope you let me in, yeah.
Hello and welcome back, fellow anime lovers, to Cypherfics. I am delighted to have you join us once again in the world of fanfiction and fantasy. This is the 11th part of, What If Ichigo Enters KUROINU? Special note, this fanfic is written and a masterpiece of Takamagara 2012 on fanfiction.net. Do check and support the author too. Now smash the like, share and subscribe button for more. Also press the bell icon so that you never miss such great parts. Thanks for the introduction. Now let's dive into the world. Now in Fio, clone Seishin number 1, who recently left UR after finishing with repairs so quickly, arrived to help the others restore Alicia's castle. Alicia and Prim also helped out as well. Their eyes were then zoomed into clone Seishin with the top part of his Shinigami uniform removed, as he was helping with restoring the castle, brick by brick. Alicia and Prim blushed a dark red, seeing his muscularly lean torso exposed and brimming with sweat as it ran down his chest and arms. A few short hours later, the townspeople were able to get the castle restored. But Seishin wasn't around. Alicia and Prim asked one of them where Seishin is and they told them that he went through town to see the improvements. Seeing that Seishin was just sightseeing, the two girls decided to go wait for him in the castle. Elsewhere, Seishin was in the bazaar, looking around the place seeing that everything was back to normal. As he was looking around, a familiar face caught up to Seishin. One of the 6 nuns he rescued a while later came to see him. "Hello, Mr. Seishin." Annie, the semi-petite young woman with long sand-brown hair greeted him. "Annie, hi." Seishin happily greeted back. "How are you and the other nuns? Whatcha been up to?" "We're doing quite well. We're just out spreading joy through prayers to others." Annie answered until she saw the others down the way. She waved to the others, which got their attention and to their surprise, they saw their hero and rushed over to see him. "Hello, Sir Seishin." Angelica, a young woman with long brown wavy hair and a large well-endowed bust, greeted alongside her sisters. "Hello, Seishin." Elizabeth, another young woman with light blue eyes and short blonde hair, greeted him by shaking his hand. She along with another young woman with black eyes and matching wavy hair named Julian. She was a little taller than Elizabeth and about equal with Seishin's height. Julian smiled and blushed while her glasses gleamed in the light as she bowed before him. Marie, the nun with sand-brown messy hair and violet eyes ran to hug the young man. A blush colored his cheeks before he chuckled and hugged back. "Greetings, Seishin-sama." Jessica has reddish-brown hair and dark gold eyes. She greeted him with a formal bow. "How has your day been?" "My day is doing well, ladies." Seishin replied. It had been a while since he last met the nuns. They were being violated by those demons. Had it been for his quick actions, those nuns would have been those demons' broodmothers. Seeing them glad and carefree made the young man smile. "I had finished helping out with restoring Alicia and Prim's homes. It went really well in the end." "That's good to hear." Annie kindly answered. "We weren't able to personally thank you for all that you've done for us. I'm just glad I could help you all." Seishin replied as he shared a happy chuckle while brushing the back of his head. "Whenever you want to come see us, our chapel is just up ahead." Julian said as she and the other nuns shared an embrace on his face, making the young man blush and chuckle. The ladies waved at him before they left. Seishin then went to shop for a few things before going to Alicia's castle. Moments later, one of Alicia's bodyguards named Amber, a young woman with matching vermilion hair and eyes, met up with the two girls in the library. She wore her bodyguard uniform that left little to hide her ample melons and her shaven womanhood. "Lady Alicia. Lady Prim." She cried when she got in, she was out of breath when she ran from her post to the library. Amber, what seems to be the problem? Alicia wondered. It is Seishin, he's in your room. Amber answered. It seems he has something for you too. Surprised, Alicia and Prim ran inside and rushed to their room, only to see their room, not only restored, but remodeled. Everything in their room was restored, their furniture was polished like new, the blankets, pillows and curtains thoroughly cleaned, the smudges on the walls were scrubbed and Prim's stuffed bears were thoroughly cleaned and fluffed by hand. The rest of the room as well as the halls were restored using Seishin's hollow energy, which left him spiritually drained and kneeling on the floor. Seishin! Alicia cried as she and Prim helped him up and then walked him to their bed, before he sat down. Are you alright? Prim asked before she and Alicia had looked around. Did you do all of this? Yeah, I wanted your home to be as great, no, even better as it was before Volt invaded. Seishin answered. It's the least I can do. Seishin, that's very sweet of you. Prim said as she walked towards him and hugged him. Yeah, thank you for all you've done, my merciful leader. Alicia smiled as she hugged him along with her. I could use a little freshening up. Clone Seishin said. Do you have a bath, shower, or a hot spring here? By all means, please use ours. Alicia said. It's through that door to your right. Seishin kindly nodded as he went to use their bathroom to freshen up. As he ran the shower, unaware to him, Alicia and Prim snuck over to see how Clone Seishin's doing. The two ladies blushed a dark red as Clone Seishin stripped off his Soul Reaper uniform, revealing his NDE body from behind. Their eyes never left as they saw him wash every part of his body, even his irked phallus. The two princesses turned to each other and nodded with a smirk. Minutes later, as Seishin was relaxing in the hot bath, he heard a few knocks which woke him up, only to see Alicia and Prim both in towels, despite not being able to hide their curvaceous figures. Seishin blushed a dark red, surprised to see them. I hope you won't mind us joining in, Seishin. Alicia said as she and Prim slowly took their towels off. Since you're taking a bath, why not all three of us? Prim added. Why yeah. I don't see why not. Seishin chuckled as he watched both Prim and Alicia join him in the bath. He blushed as he looked at their curvy figures for a brief second before they all washed each other up. Alicia and Prim covered their bodies in suds before they started rubbing their bountiful bosoms on Seishin. Seishin, I was wondering, what do you think our dream wedding would be like? Alicia asked, which surprised the young man for a brief minute. I think I have an idea. Seishin answered. Maybe I would see you all wearing white veil wedding dresses, black for Olga and Chloe, of course. I walked down the red carpet towards the chapel when you ladies were standing at. Each of you with tears running down your smiling faces, even after we said our vows. Alicia and Prim were taken aback by the kind words Seishin has said. Tears began building up in their eyes before the two immediately hugged their red-haired hero. That's the most appealing thing you ever said, Seishin. Alicia said before she leaned in and kissed his lips. Seishin was about to close his eyes as they were about to deepen their embrace, only to see Prim pouting. The young man chuckled before he pulled his lips from Alicia and planted them on Prim's. The pinkette closed her eyes before she happily wrapped her arms around his neck. Seishin suddenly felt Prim's tongue slip into his mouth as she continued to embrace him with more passion for another minute before she pulled her lips and tongue back. As Prim was kissing Seishin, Alicia watched them, her rose-colored blush appeared, her heart was beating quickly and her breathing became heavy. Seconds after, she was rubbing her pink slit which surprised Seishin. Prim, who was in the middle of a heated embrace, saw Alicia moaning softly while pleasing herself. The pinkette giggled before she let go of him and began kissing Alicia instead. Seishin's blush darkened again seeing this girl-on-girl action. Then again, he saw it happen, twice back in Dragondala. One time after he and Claudia made out, and again after Celestine was reunited. Alicia and Prim softly moaned in their passionate embrace which made Seishin quite aroused. The two princesses turned to Seishin before they smiled. Seishin. We can't hold it in any longer. Alicia cooed as she took his left hand with Prim holding his right hand. Please take us, Seishin. Prim begged. A few minutes later, Seishin was on the girl's bed, in the middle of a heated duel FLLT. Prim and Alicia ate the, coating it from tip to bottom in their saliva while FNDLNG his TSTCLS. Their soft hands and mouths earned a MMM from the young man who was slowly writhing in pleasure from the two princesses. Sweet Cammy, this never gets old. Seishin said as his head was snapped up as Alicia and Prim did their best to please their lover while Seishin responded in kind as he gently petted their heads as they continued their oral work. The two girls then took their mouths off his length and replaced them with their ample bosoms. I'm glad you love this as much as we do, especially since we're going to be your wives, darling. Alicia giggled as she and Prim began kissing the bulb while they stroked his faster. Seishin's moans grew louder as his tenses and his sack swelled up. Without giving off any warning, Seishin sprayed out his creamy substance like a fountain as it landed on the girls' melons and faces. Seishin watched as Alicia and Prim cleaned up in a stuck manner by licking their faces off. Then to really make Seishin blush and even more aroused, Alicia and Prim took turns licking the remains off their melons. The young man blushed even more to the sight of the two girls eating each other, making them giggle in response. An idea then came to mind for Prim. Wani-sama, I'll be right back. Have fun with our husband in the meantime. Prim smiled and winked at the two before she got off the bed and went into the closet. Alicia smiled at Seishin before she pushed him down on the bed, before she straddled his lap. Just lay back and relax, my beloved. Let me take control. Alicia leaned in and kissed his lips. The two shared a passionate embrace, tongues swirling around each other, moans were made between the two and their bodies were pressed against each other, before Alicia slipped her lover's urk inside her moist cavern. The blonde-haired beauty moaned as she immediately sat up, savoring every inch of his warm tower inside her wet snatch. She softly gripped his hands before bouncing up and down on his girth. Oh, I can never get tired of this. Alicia placed her hands on his chest, smiling, moaning and enjoying the feel of his warmth as she bounced on his girth. Seishin, while moaning, reached out for Alicia's melons and softly massaged the jiggling orbs. Seishin sat up a little as he placed his lips on her right BRST while Alicia cradled the young man's head as he suckled on her BRST. Unaware of them, Prim watched the whole thing while rubbing her fingers between her wet, pink petals while in her other hand held a black dual-sided strap-on. The pinkette caressed her slit so slowly and gently, building her arousal while Alicia continued to ride Seishin's length. She imagined herself taking over Alicia's place, riding his girth like the time back in their secret base. Prim then pushes the toy inside her tight cavern, moaning so lewdly, feeling the toy fill up her inner walls. Compared to Seishin's girth, that toy was a close second. As Alicia continues to ride Seishin, she feels her CLMX approaching, as well as feeling Seishin tensing up. Seishin, I can feel your PP tensing up. You're about to leak, are you? Please, let it out inside me. I want it. Alicia begged as she continued to ride Seishin like a wild stallion. The two then let out one loud MMM as Seishin filled her womb, while Alicia sprayed her love juices on his waist. The two panted as their mixed fluids began leaking out of her entrance, despite Seishin's hot rod still in her. Wow. That felt great. Seishin said as he was catching his breath. Indeed. Alicia smiled before she felt his hot rod still irked. It looks like you want to continue. Me, too. I want more of your embrace. Then let's continue. Seishin said before the two smiled and kissed. Just as Seishin was about to move inside her again, Alicia heard some moans coming from behind. She and Seishin turned their sights to see Prim standing up with her legs spread open while playing with what appears to be a toy shaped like one's irked phallus. Wani-sama. Can I try this on you? Seishin and Alicia blushed as Prim stood behind them, toying herself with her dual-ended toy and watching it twitch while it's in her pink cavern. Alicia remembered the time she was being plowed by her while her mind was corrupted by Volt, but now, all she wants is to embrace the pleasure with the one she loves. Ah! Prim, where did you get that? Seishin asked her. I asked Olga-sama if she could make this. Prim answered while looking to the side, blushing. I know I was under Volt's influence, but I was jealous that I couldn't please my Wani-sama the same way you do, Seishin-kun. That's why I. Prim looked down, getting ready to tear up, until Seishin and Alicia hugged the pinkette. Prim closed her eyes and hugged them back as tears ran down her smiling face. There's no need to be down. Seishin said as she wiped her tears. If you wanted to do that, you could have just asked. Besides, we're still aroused. I wouldn't mind either way. Come, Prim. Let's have fun together. Alicia said as she sank her lover's hot tower inside her once more. Prim coated the other end with her saliva and Alicia's mixed fluids before sliding it inside Alicia's tight back end. Alicia gasped as she felt her back door slowly widening up as she felt Prim's tool filling her until all of it was in her. The three nodded before they started making their move. Prim and Seishin held Alicia's childbearing hips before the two began moving their hips. Seishin was first to move his hips, gliding his inside her moist cavern. Prim followed suit with moving her hips back and forth a second after Seishin, making Alicia move in a forward bouncing movement. Alicia moaned as she felt both of her holes being plowed. She remembered the moment when Volt broke Prim mentally. Days later, he made Prim, with her mind broken and corrupted, wanted, out of all things, to pleasure and impregnate her sister. It was soon stopped when Seishin and Chloe broke into the castle and saved them both. Compared back then to now, Alicia and Prim were in complete bliss. Prim got her chance to experience how a man makes a woman feel good, and Alicia making out with both her sister and the man who saved them. The blonde-haired princess's voice grew an octave higher as Seishin and Prim began to go faster. With her lust taking over her, Alicia leaned in and kissed Seishin with such vigor while Prim watched as her sister and Seishin were kissing so passionately. Prim felt her loins tighten while she bucked her hips, sliding the other end of her black dual-ended toy in and out of her sister's tight tail end, same with Seishin's as his hot tower continued to plow through her moist tunnel. Their climaxes were fast approaching, and Alicia was enjoying every bit of it. Wani-sama, I'm about to leak. Prim cried. Me, too. I can't hold it much longer. Seishin added. Then let us leak together. Alicia cried as they let out a loud howl. Seishin filled her womb to the brim while Prim's love juices were spraying out of her like a water sprinkler. The three rode through their euphoria before it slowly went away. When it did, he and Prim slowly pulled themselves out of her before laying her on the bed softly. I love you. Alicia smiled as she sat up a bit before she kissed Seishin and Prim's lips before passing out in a relaxing sleep. I love you too, Alicia. Seishin said before he was quickly grabbed by Prim before kissing his lips once more with her right hand stroking his now rearched. The pinkette pulled her toy out of her drenched cavern, twitching with excitement before rubbing her CLT with her left hand. Seishin, please. I want your thick PP inside me. Prim begged him. My, Prim. You want me that bad? Seishin chuckled for a second before he stood on his feet. My dear pinkette. How much do you want me inside you? Prim laid back on the bed with her legs spread open. She reached down to her pink folds before she spread them open in front of the young man, making him blush. Please, Seishin. I want you inside me really bad. Prim begged him while rubbing her CLT in front of him. Seishin chuckled before he approached her. He gently leaned in and kissed the pinkette softly but full of passion, before sliding his strong cannon inside her tight cavern. Prim broke the embrace and gasped at the feel of Seishin's girth filling her warm innards. My You're tighter than before. Seishin chuckled as he gazed at Prim's sapphire eyes while Prim giggled as she gazed back at his crimson eyes. And you're bigger than before. Prim said as she wrapped her legs around his waist, motioning Seishin to proceed. The red-haired male calmly nodded before he began bucking his hips back and forth, sliding his length in and out of her wet snatch. Tears of joy ran down Prim's eyes as she made passionate love with her hero. Minutes later, Prim was on top of Seishin, bouncing on his lap like a little girl on a trampoline. Prim gazed into Seishin's vermilion eyes for a minute before the two kissed once again. The pinkette's moans were muffled as she kissed him with such intensity before she straddles his hips, grinding his thick cannon inside her. Their tongues were wrapped in a forbidden, passionate dance as the two moaned. Seishin began pounding her insides faster, making Prim an octave higher as his tip was hitting her CRVX. Seishin, having his irk sensitive from his romp with Alicia, swelled up and before the two could react, Prim moaned as she felt his warm seed fill her womb up like a tidal wave. Sorry about that, Prim," Seishin said as he slowly pulled his out of her cream-covered crotch. It was sensitive from climaxing with Alicia twice. "It's okay, Seishin," Prim said as she kissed his lips. She giggled before she got on her knees with her head on the soft bed before spreading her cheeks. "You won't mind if you can do it, in this hole." Seishin blushed a dark red when Prim pointed to her tight back end as she begged for Seishin's strong rod to penetrate her back door. The young man remembered when Prim told him the time Volt had his men violate her, raping every hole they see. Compared to now, seeing that she kindly asked for him to take her reclaimed black cherry. Seeing how aroused Prim was, made Seishin calmly smile before he kissed her lips once more for a second before rubbing the cream cover to her tight anus. Once the two nodded, Seishin slowly and gently pushed his entire inside her. Inch by inch, Prim endured the feeling of her tight pucker being penetrated by Seishin's mighty spear. After the last inch of his was inside her rectum, Seishin leaned in and kissed the back of her neck while using his spirit energy to heal away the pain, making Prim feel more at ease. Once Prim gave him the okay, Seishin began sliding his throbbing phallus in and out of her tight rectum. Prim's hands tightly clenched the bed sheets as Seishin dug deeper inside her dark cavern. Within a few short seconds, her rectum began to adapt to Seishin's size, and the pinkette began to an octave higher, feeling the new wave of pleasure coursing through her body after each of Seishin's thrusts. I can feel it hitting my stomach." Prim gasped as she felt his cannon hitting a deep but pleasurable part of her. "Should I stop?" Seishin asked her before she turned to him. "And no. Keep going." Prim moaned before she began to smile, enjoying the sensation her lover is giving her. It wasn't long until Seishin gently gripped her left arm from behind and pulled her up, watching her melons jiggle with each move, even when he began to go faster. At the same time as Seishin continued to hit the right spots, Prim began to rub her fingers against her swollen Celestine-drenched folds, making her even more aroused. Seishin began to grunt a little as his began to swell up, but he kept his calm using sheer will alone as he continued to have Prim ride the pleasure waves he's making. Prim, on the other hand, felt her loins tighten up once again, which made Seishin well aware of her CLMX approaching. He leaned down and kissed the back of the pinkette's neck while letting go of her arm and placed them on her melons, massaging her ample mounds in his palms like putty. As he continued, he felt his hot rod swelling up and his sack tightening. His CLMX was fast approaching. "Prim, I can't hold it anymore." Seishin grunted. "Me, too. Inside me. Do it inside me," Prim said before she kissed his lips once again. After Seishin made his last 3 thrusts, the two groaned. Prim's love juices sprayed from her love canal while feeling her lover's hot batter fill her back end. Stars were all Prim could see as she rode through the euphoria. Seishin then carried Prim to lay beside him with Alicia next to him. The two girls, worn from the passionate lovemaking, wrapped their arms around Seishin and cuddled themselves to sleep. In Jefu. "Thank you for inviting me into your home, Claudia." Seishin said as he walked inside the castle with Claudia walking beside him. She wore a different dress, a rose-colored dress that went down towards her ankles, thin straps around her shoulders and a small split that showed off her right calf. The young man smiled as he saw how the castle looked, after he and some of the town's residents had finished repairing the castle. The castle looks a whole lot better, now that the damages KUROINU made were repaired. It's my pleasure to have you in my home, Seishin. Seeing that the Levantine's legacy is safe and sound, is a relief on my end. Claudia smiled as she took his hand, keeping him close as the two walked through the castle. Despite saving her in the cell room, this is technically Seishin's first time in her castle. Claudia gave the young man a tour around the place, showing her the different rooms such as the foyer and living room. Each room was filled with family paintings and rare artifacts were safely unharmed, but some of the decorations such as the curtains were slightly damaged from the invasion. Luckily for Claudia, they got plenty of replacements. Soon after, Claudia led him to her new room, which was originally Graves. Seishin helped her with unpacking the last of her belongings. While setting up her new room, Seishin saw some paintings of previous predecessors who lived in this castle, hanging around the walls. From the first Levantine to Grave and then Klaus. It would seem that you aren't the only one who recently lived in this castle, according to these paintings. Seishin said. Are each of them part of the Levantine family tree? Yes, you are right. From what I remembered from my times with Klaus, the Levantine were brave people, Claudia explained, each of them were warriors, pioneers, explorers. They were leaders by example, and to inspire others. That legacy lasted a whole century, until Claudia stopped herself as she saw a picture of her and Klaus. Her eyes were tearing up, her heart and mind grew heavy, filled with the moments that her husband was killed by Grave and his men, how that same man raped and violated her, as her duty as a member of the Levantine family, he said. Claudia then broke down crying as she fell to her knees before Seishin saw the picture of her and Klaus. The young man approached the holy knight before hugging her, consoling her. Claudia. Seishin softly spoke in her ear while doing his best to cheer her up. I know Klaus has flooded your heart and mind with many wonderful memories, and I know he wants you to continue being happy for him. Seishin. Claudia then looked up at him who's smiling down at her. Klaus wants you to honor the family legacy, and not pay mind to the dark times you endured. Seishin continued. You're the new head of the Levantine family, now. It's your time to lead by example and inspire others. I know you won't let him down. The holy knight wiped her tears and smiled before she placed her hands on both sides of his face. She reached up to plant her soft lips on his. The two closed her eyes and embraced themselves in a minute-long lip lock until she pulled her lips away from his. You risked your own life to save us. For that I am incredibly touched, my beloved, and no words of thanks can ever repay what I owe you. Claudia said as she led him to her bed. Hopefully this will. I have a surprise for you. Please wait here, with your eyes closed. Sure. He answered. As Seishin closed his eyes, Claudia smiled as she silently stripped off her armor and set them aside without making a sound. She then crawled onto the bed and then on top of him until. You can open your eyes now. She said as the young man did what she said. Seishin gasped as he saw Claudia wearing a pure white bustier top with silk white laces in the front and a see-through veil that barely covered her endowed assets. She also wore matching lace panties with a transparent veil that showed almost her entire crotch, a garter belt around her waist connected to her knee-high stockings. Wow, Claudia. Seishin was mesmerized at Claudia's attire, it almost made him think she was an angel. Claudia slowly undid her braided hair, letting it all flow down naturally like she did before. She then crawled towards him before she helped remove his shirt. I'm glad you like my outfit. Claudia said with a giggle as she sat on his lap and straddled his crotch so sensually. She leaned in and planted butterfly kisses on his left side of his face and around his neck. I had my female tailors customize this for me, just to please you, and only you. Well, I must say, you look appealing in it. Seishin smiled as Claudia giggled with him before she leaned in and kissed his lips for a minute before she kissed her way down to his scarred torso. Seishin softly moans as he felt her soft lips and fingers trail down his chest. He even felt her warm tongue licking his areola and the small buds that were sticking out. She then kissed her way down to his waistline before pulling him to the edge of the bed. Once Seishin was sitting on the edge of the bed, Claudia got on her knees and slowly took his sash off and pulled his pants down, revealing his hung glory, which made the holy knight's eyes sparkle before she pulled down the top of her corset, revealing her well-endowed melons. Oh, Seishin. Claudia smiled before she took her right hand and stroked his glory, feeling the warmth radiating off from her hand. After a couple of strokes, she wrapped his around her soft lips. And to his surprise, Claudia took his hands and softly placed them on her head, visually prompting him to use her mouth as her moist nether region. Seishin nodded before he gently slid his in and out of her mouth, feeling her tongue swirl around his tip. As Seishin continued to please Claudia, he blushed a dark red when he saw the holy knight began to fondle her right breast with her right hand and her left hand rubbing her pink petals. He knows that Claudia was both mature and appealing, especially since the night the two had consummated their love, but he didn't know that she has quite the nympho side when he saw her fndlng her breast and her wet flower at the same time. Claudia's mind grew foggier with each second, the only thing she had in mind was spending every minute of her life with Seishin, even with the other girls. The holy knight's moans were constantly muffled as she continued to take all of Seishin's girth down her throat, though she was glad he was being gentle with her, unlike what Grave had done. Within minutes, Seishin's strong rod got even harder and to both of their surprise, the young man's semen burst and overflowed in her mouth. Claudia was able to drink down what she could of Seishin's release, the majority leaked from the corners of her mouth and dripped onto her melons. Once she was able to drink all of his juice, Seishin let go of her head before she freed his still-irked tower from her mouth. So, appealing. I. Claudia thought as she softly stroked her lover's thick trunk, feeling the as strong as iron in her hands. The holy knight giggled before she sat up, and kissed his lips softly before pulling her panties down, getting on her hands and knees on his bed. Claudia. W.L. Seishin blushed a darker shade of red as he saw Claudia on the bed, spreading her thick rear out to show him her wet crotch, shivering with arousal as her juices were streaming down her thighs. She then turned to Seishin with a lustful look in her eyes, sporting a light blush on her face. Do you see me, Seishin? I'm so wet. Claudia pleaded out to the red-haired Shinigami while fndlng her dripping wet folds. Please, Seishin, give it to me. I want to feel your hot embrace. I want you inside of me. Seishin would never expect her to say such lusty things to him. Ever since the young man saved her and helped restore her pride, she grew more affectionate to her hero. Even with her new role as head of the Levantine family, she was more than happy to be one of his wives. Seishin, knowing just how much Claudia loves him, happily agreed as he approached the holy knight from behind, rubbed his tip against her wet slit, dripping from arousal before pushing his entire length inside her with ease. Claudia gasped at the feel of her hero's stiffness inside her. Claudia moaned loudly and gripped the bedsheets tightly as adjusted to him inside her. Seishin began to jerk his crotch. While gripping her hips with Claudia corresponded by smashing her hips with his in synchronized tandem. The young man's throbbing length flew through Claudia's moist cavern while she whimpered from the waves of pleasure coursing through her entire body with each move. Ah, yes Seishin. Right there. Right there. Claudia cried out as she was in sheer bliss. Seishin continued to smash his hips with hers, pushing his stiff member deeper in her crevice, hitting her sensitive spots like he did the last time when the two first made out. The young man chuckled as he leaned over and cupped her melons, squeezing them firmly in his palms. Claudia then sat up a little and whispered in his ear. Seishin smirked as he nodded at her request. Moments later, Seishin was laying on the bed back first with Claudia laying her back against his chest, resuming his thunderous assault inside her moist crevice. Claudia's left arm was wrapped around the young man's neck, her legs were spread open with her left leg held by Seishin while his right hand continued to fondle her right BRST while her left BRST jiggled with each move. The holy knight's loud moans echoed the entire room as Seishin continued to hit her sensitive spots in rhythmic fashion. His right hand continued to massage her BRST, teasing her hardened bud by pinching it lightly between his thumb and index, and then pressing it down softly like pressing a button on a game controller with his thumb. Love juices began leaking out of her like rain from the sky as the tip of his length kissed her CRVX's entrance from Seishin's touch. Claudia felt her inner walls tighten up, coiling Seishin's stiff cannon like a boa constrictor and its prey. She knew that she's at her limit. Same with Seishin as he felt his ball and his length swelling up, ready to explode. Claudia. I can't, hold it. Seishin said with a husky voice. It's fine. Claudia said as she moaned in his ear. Inside me. Let it out inside me. See Claudia. Seishin grunted as he made one last slam against Claudia's bubbly rear before the two reached their CLMX. Seishin flooded her CRVX with his hot load like a tidal wave, filling her up entirely. The two froze and kept each other close as his release sprayed out of her now sticky folds and the two fell backward on the bed, panting heavily, riding out their euphoria. That was really good. Seishin smiled as he was catching his breath while staring at the ceiling. Claudia giggled while planting butterfly kisses on his neck, cheek, and his lips. You are definitely a beast in bed, darling. Claudia said while planting kisses on his cheek. And you are an angel in bed. Seishin chuckled from her compliment and her kisses. That's because you me feel like a real woman. Claudia smiled at him before nuzzling against his chin. Just then, she felt his length get irked. Looks like you want to continue. Good, I would love for us to go again. This time, I'll be on top. A minute later, Claudia was bouncing on top of Seishin's lap. His irked missile continues to glide through her moist cavern, her bountiful melons jiggled with each bounce she made and her eyes remained locked on Seishin. The two smiled for a second before she leaned in and kissed his lips while her hips twerked on his iron cannon. Their embrace lasted a few minutes before she pulled his lips back, only for her to stop bouncing and ask him a simple question. My dear, Seishin. Klaus and I, we regretted the chance to bear a child when we first fell in love. Now that you're in my life, I want to ask you this, if we were able to have a child together, what would you name the boy or girl? Claudia asked the young man. If it was a girl, I would call her Winona. But if the child was a boy? Seishin then smiled as he raised his left hand, and softly caressed the right side of her face, which she nuzzled into. If the child was a boy, I think Klaus would be proud to name the boy after him. After Seishin said what would the child be named, his lips were quickly occupied when Claudia immediately kissed him with such passion before she resumed riding on him once more. Seishin, I love you so much. Claudia cried as she continued bouncing on his irked length with such intensity. Seishin watched as Claudia placed her right hand on his chst, holding her in place while she massaged her left BRST with her other hand, making the young man grow more aroused. Oh, sweet Cammy. Seishin moaned alongside Claudia as he felt her inner walls tighten up, wrapping his irked tower like a snake coiling around its prey. At the same time, Claudia, whose lustful eyes were locked on Seishin, took her left BRST and softly licked her areola. Seishin slowly opened his eyes before seeing her licking and suckling on her NPL before his left hand gently grabbed her right BRST and softly massaged it. Just then, both Seishin and Claudia felt their loins tighten, feeling their CLMX quickly approaching. See Claudia. Seishin grunted as the two bucked their hips in a synchronized tempo. Claudia leaned down to look in Seishin's eyes. Her cerulean eyes gazed at his crimson orbs before leaning in and kissing him with such passion. Tongues swirl in each other's mouths, both their arms wrapped around the other as sweat runs down their heated bodies. Claudia then pulled her lips back, leaving a saliva trail between the two. "Say no more, darling," Claudia said as she smiled at the young man. "Let it out inside me. I want to bear our first child." Both Claudia and Seishin's hips clashed for another minute until the two moaned. Claudia's eyes went completely white in a higher level of joy with her tongue hanging out from her mouth as she felt Seishin's SMN flood her womb once again, filling her to the brim before the remains spewed and oozed from her entrance and landed on her bedsheet. As the last of their release emptied Seishin's mighty cannon, Claudia lost her strength in her arms and legs, and collapsed on Seishin's chest. Her melons were squished against his torso, her head softly nuzzling against his head, and her lustful smile had reverted to her normal one. "I love you, Seishin. So much." Claudia cooed, making the young man smile back at her. "I love you too, Claudia." Seishin replied. "I'm definitely looking forward to that wedding." "I know you do, my king." "Me too." Claudia replied before the two noticed Seishin length being irked once more. Claudia giggled before kissing his lips once more. Round 3. "My, Claudia. You're feeling energetic," Seishin said to her before the two shared a giggle. "Very well, you're on. In Rad, same day." "Hey, Seishin Dano. Thanks again for taking the time to help us," Maya said as she wore her signature grin as she wrapped her arms around his neck. Seishin smirked as the two kissed for a few seconds. "It's no problem, Maya," Seishin replied. "This is my first time seeing your homeland. I'm glad not much damage has been caused here." "Yeah, me too," Maya smirked. "Come on, let's celebrate our moment of peace with some drinks at my favorite place. Lead the way, Maya," Seishin said as Maya smirked before she led him to her favorite bar. The 3-story bar was as big and long as a pirate ship. In front of the bar has a picture of a crescent moon blushing while drinking from a wooden mug. Seishin stopped to see the front of the building for a second before the two walked inside. When they got in, Seishin saw many people inside, customers of every size and color, adventurers all around. "Welcome to my favorite bar in Rad, the Drunken Moon," Maya said before. She was greeted by the bartender, a tall male with spiky raven black hair, appeared to be in his mid-30s with a mustache and matching goatee. His brown eyes immediately caught sight of Maya walking in with Seishin until he called out. "Maya. Welcome." The man cried out. "How's my favorite customer been doing?" "Oh, I'm doing well. Just showing my soon-to-be husband around the place." Maya grinned before pulling Seishin in and wrapped her left arm around his neck. "So you're the man that Maya has her eye on." The bartender smirked at the young man. "Yeah, that's me. What can I say, Maya is one hot-blooded lady." Seishin and Maya shared a smile before the red-haired mercenary leaned in and kissed his lips. The bartender looked at the two before he shared a hearty laugh. "Well, any friend of Maya is a friend of mine," the man said before fixing him and Maya 2 of the house specials. 2 wooden mugs full of root beer with a hint of ginger. "This is on the house. And same goes for everyone." Huzzah! The customers cheered as he began offering refills to everyone. "He seems pretty nice," Seishin said before he smirked. "You know it. He's like a brother to me. I visited this bar during my time with Volt, long before that BSTRD changed," Maya said before she began cheering with the others. "But that's all in the past. Come on, Seishin. Let's celebrate." At the same time, Seishin took his mug before his inner hollow took possession with his left eye. His inner hollow glanced at the drink for a few seconds, catching the scent until he calmly smirked. "Don't worry, Seishin. It's root beer," Seishin's hollow said, which made the young man smirk before he took his mug. He and Maya shared a toast to each other before he started guzzling it down. Maya smirked as drank down her mug. She then introduced Seishin to some of her friends. One of them was Olivia Scarlett, a slim young woman with pink waist-length hair. She wore a black eye patch with a gold rose insignia on her right eye, a dark red bikini top that shows most of her perky mounds, a red pirate coat cape and tricorn hat, a green perio that shows off her right leg and lace-up shoes on her feet. The three smiled and became more friendly with each other. After her friend left, Maya winked at Seishin before playfully nudging his side. She then walked over to her brotherly bartender after giving him the mug. "You got my room ready?" Maya asked the bartender. "It's always ready," he answered before giving her the key. "You two have fun." "Oh, we will." Maya smirked before she motioned him to follow her upstairs. Seishin and Maya arrived at her usual room, a large bed with red sheets, a bathroom next door and a closet which they could put their things in. Once Maya put her sword and Seishin's zanpakuto in the closet, the two sat on the bed and talked a little. "Man, it has been more than half a year since you came into our lives, Seishin Dano," Maya said. "It still feels like yesterday. I still remember the time when you saved me twice on that same day." "Yeah, and from then on, you kept calling me, Seishin Dano. It really grew on me." Seishin smiled for a moment. He and Maya even shared a laugh, until she took a deep sigh. The moment she sighed, Seishin knew. "Something been on your mind, huh Maya?" Seishin asked. "Seishin, I rarely tell anyone other than Volt, Celestine and the others about my past," Maya explained. "I don't really have much of a family back then. I hardly knew much about my dad, especially since he left her the moment after I was born. My mother later died from a disease when I was little. I had to fend myself through this rough life, stealing food from vendors, fighting against others to survive." "I'm sorry to hear that, Maya." Seishin felt sympathetic for the former mercenary as he hugged her before she continued. "As I got older, still surviving out on the streets, I encountered Volt. He saw potential in me after all I had done, so he took me in and trained me to become a mercenary. I even grew feelings for him for what he did and spent a night to repay him, but everything changed afterwards. I fled from him and joined Celestine and her knights. Even after fleeing from my past, he found a way to pull me back. I know that you went in my mind after all when you saved me." Seishin watched as Maya shared her past. As he listened, he saw tears running down her face. The young man hugged her and wiped her tears off. Crimson hues met with each other as Seishin smiled at her. "You are safe now, Maya," he said. "I know what it's like to live a rough life. But now, you're living a peaceful life now. Volt is dead, your homes are being restored and to top it off, you're already in a family. Celestine and the knights, and also I'm here, too. Yes, I could never forget the day Celestine brought me into her group, and I could never forget the day you saved me, twice." Maya smiled back. "Back when I was a baby, my mom told me, even to her last day, that I was her little princess. Now, I am your princess. Thank you, my beloved angel. You're more than that, Maya. You'll soon be my queen," Seishin said, which made Maya's heart flutter. As she gazed at his warm smile, tears began to swell up in her eyes before she tackled him into the bed, kissing him feverishly. The red-haired ex-mercenary immediately gripped his Shinigami uniform and ripped it off him, exposing his toned body and his hung glory. Maya licked her lips before she pulled her clothes off, showing off her ample bosom and every feature that made her all the more appealing. Maya gazed at Seishin with eyes full of passion and lust. The ex-mercenary's heart raced after Seishin told her that she's going to become his queen alongside the others. Hearing those words made the young lady's love for him grow exponentially. Maya got on her bed and slowly crawled up to Seishin like a lioness sneaking up to her prey. As she was face to face with her lover, Maya kissed his neck while her left hand slowly wrapped his tower and stroked it. Seishin softly moans from the pleasuring feel of Maya pleasing the young man so well. Maya. You're more energetic than before since the last time. Seishin chuckled as he watched Maya embrace down his toned chst. She stopped in between to swirl her tongue and softly suckle on his areola. The red-haired mercenary giggled as she continued to plant kisses as she inched herself closer to his already irked length. That's because I'm with the very man who I love so much. Maya said before she was in between his legs, nuzzling against the young man's irkten. Seishin, just lay back and relax. Let me handle this. The two shared a smile before Maya swirled her tongue around the tip of his tower. Seishin let out a soft sigh as he felt her tongue swirling around the tip and the entire from top to bottom and back, before taking it all in her mouth. Seishin's back arched as he felt her warm soft lips around his length before bobbing her head up and down slowly. Maya giggled again as she looked at him writhing in pleasure before she closed her eyes and continued to bob her head, taking the hero's cannon down the back of her throat. At the same time, she took her left hand and softly rubbed her pink slit while fndlng Seishin's sack with her right hand. As Maya took Seishin's down her throat, he arched his back against the bed, moaning from the intense pleasure. When she opened her eyes to see Seishin moaning with his back arched, she smiled as Seishin enjoyed what she was giving him. He felt his swelling up at the same time Maya felt her loins tingling, sensing her orgasm quickly approaching. Maya. Seishin couldn't finish as he surprised Maya as he released his load down her throat. Maya was astonished at the load he let out, at the same time, she felt her juices sprayed out like a sprinkler. Once she calmed down, she took her slow time drinking his healthy load down her throat until the last glob was swallowed. She slowly glides her lips back up with a loud pop, locking eyes with Seishin at the same time. Seishin was breathing heavily from the sudden release. Once he cooled down, he shared a chuckle with her. Thank you for the meal, honey. Maya giggled and grinned at the young man, before they shared a laugh. Just then, she felt his length irked once again. This is also why I love you, Seishin. You have so much stamina. Hee. I'm just blessed that I have that. Seishin chuckled while blushing out of embarrassment. No need to be embarrassed, I love that you have that. Maya said. It makes me all the more excited to do this with you. Well, I'm glad. Seishin said before Maya kissed his lips once more. Now, then. I have something here that we can use to spice our time here together. Maya said before crawling to the drawer next to the bed. The red-haired woman smirked as she showed Seishin some toys she would use. Seishin blushed a dark red as she saw a black threaded rope, a VBRTR, NLBDS, even a BLNDFLD. Maya also explained to him how each of them work, like the VBRTR has a magical rock in them that vibrates when shaken well enough. Maya. You're even more lewd than I thought. Seishin said. Ah, Seishin. Maya chuckled before she tickled his chin. She then picked the rope and tossed it to him. Let's do a little pretend. You can be the soldier that captured me and then do a little interrogating. Isn't that reenacting a moment when you were captured by Volt? Seishin questioned. Well, yes. Maya chuckled sheepishly, but since I am with you, then I won't mind it at all. Okay then, let's have a little fun. Hope you can handle me. Seishin said. We had SEC a couple times, Seishin Dano. I can definitely handle you. Maya chuckled at his response and kissed his lips once more. Minutes later, Maya was on the bed, her head was laying on a soft pillow, her arms were tied behind her back, her eyes were covered with a BLNDFLD, and the NLBDS that were inserted inside her backdoor were vibrating like crazy. The red-haired ex-mercenary moaned loudly from the combined effort of the beads and Seishin's mighty cannon pounding her moist cavern. How, are you, liking this interrogation? Seishin asked her as he grunts with each deep move he made as his hot rod continues to his each of her sensitive spots. Oh, goddess. F. This feels so good. Harder. Do it harder. Maya cried as she felt his powerful thrusts as he grew closer to her core. The former mercenary haven't felt this level of pleasure in a long time. Once time that happened was when she was captured and violated by Volt and his men. Minutes later, Maya was on his lap, still tied up, but bouncing on Seishin's lap. Her blndfld was removed and she can see Seishin's handsome face. Influenced by her intensified lust and love for Seishin, she leaned in and kissed him deeply. The young man kissed her back the same way as the two lasted a long minute or two. Maya was first to pull her lips back and continued to within his right ear. Until she said the very words since their first night. Seishin Dano. Pin me down like last time. Maya cooed in his ear. Don't stop slamming that PP deep inside me. Those very words, like before, triggered the beast within Seishin once again. He smirked before he immediately pinned her down on the bed in a mating press and continued to PND his iron tower deep inside her. Maya continued to in such a loud and lewd manner, enjoying her lover's embrace while his length continued to hit her CRVX. Both Seishin's and Maya's lions began to tense up, sensing that their inevitable CLMX is fast approaching. Maya smirked before she wrapped her legs around his waist. Maya. Aye. Seishin called out to her, knowing he won't hold on much longer. You're about to leak, Seishin. Maya assumed before she grinned. Do it inside me. Flood my womb with your hot milk. Seishin continued to PMD her inner cavern as fast and strong as he could. After one last move, the two howled before Seishin let out his load inside Maya's womb, filling her to the brim. The two were catching their breaths, regaining their composure as their bodies rode through their euphoria. Maya on the other hand, her tongue hung out while showing her Ichigo face, her eyes rolled into her head and her body trembled and twitched from the intense arousal washed over her from her powerful orgasm. Once they were calm, Seishin slowly pulled his still-irked length out of her. Only for Maya to wrap her legs around his waist again, keeping him in place and his mixed battered length remained inside her honeypot. This reaction immediately surprised Seishin as Maya gazed into his bright red eyes. You're not coming out of me, darling. Maya smirked as she kissed him deeply. I got plenty of energy to burn and plenty of time. I'm gonna keep milking you until your ball are spent, even if it lasts us until the next morning. After hearing what Maya said, shocked and speechless were the only expressions Seishin could do before Maya began kissing her neck and turning themselves around until she was on top. This is going to be loads of fun, darling. Maya said before she continued to embrace his neck and grind her hips against his. Sweet Kami of Takamagara. Seishin thought as tears of why me ran down the sides of his face as he found himself stuck in a sticky, pleasurable, and RTC situation that he won't escape. Maya giggled at his reaction before she began riding him once more. In answer, same day. Another of Seishin's duplicates arrived in answer and helped Roro with restoring their home, a castle which is actually a very tall tree, much taller than a great oak but not as big as the one in Midgard. He, Roro and the townspeople were finishing up with their homes. Afterwards, the ringlet halfling took him to her home and celebrated by having a meal with him while her 5-girl group of halflings decided to go to their own hot spring up in the mountains. I must say, Roro, your home is really good. Seishin said as he looked around the place. I've seen treehouses in my own time, but yours takes it to the next level, or several levels ahead for that matter. I'm glad you love my home, Seishin. Roro said as she came from her kitchen. In her hands has 2 trays of her cooking that she learned from Oriheim. I kept my home safe from intruders for quite some time, until they came. Don't worry about it, Volt is dead and things here in the districts are returning to normal. Seishin said, which made Roro's tail wag. All you can think of is that peace is returning. I would rather call it the age of peace. Yes, you're right about that. Roro replied before she and Seishin smelt the delicious aroma of her food. Right now, let's dig in. Right. Seishin grinned before they began eating their trays of food. Within minutes, both of their trays were empty but their stomachs were full. The two sighed with a smile on their faces. Roro, on the other hand, was a little drunk from the wine the two shared. She giggled a little before walking over to him, wrapping herself around his arm and nuzzled against his shoulder. Are you okay, Roro? Seishin asked the halfling. You're feeling a little tipsy from drinking too much wine. Seishin couldn't help but watch as Roro continued to nuzzle his shoulder like she's his pet. Yeah, I'm fine. I am used to this. Us, halflings can handle being drunk for a moment before it goes away. Roro said with a toothy grin, before an idea came to her mind. Seishin. Since the others went to the hot springs, why don't we go? It has mixed bathing springs too. Hot springs, Sure, lead the way, Roro. Seishin replied before he and Roro left the castle and up the mountain. She pointed to the steam up by the mountains before Seishin let her on his shoulders and used his flash step to get there with time to spare. When they got there, Seishin saw how vast the place was. It felt like he was in a hotel rather than just a sauna alone. He saw many other kinds of species coexisting and relaxing. Roro then took Seishin to a hot spring next to the one her halfling group was in. Seishin watched as Roro stripped off her clothes and cape before rushing into the hot spring. He then took his clothes off and walked right in the springs, not before wrapping a towel around his lower region. Roro giggled as Seishin walked into the springs before sitting next to her. I gotta say, this is a really nice place, Roro. Seishin said. Do people like myself come up here, or is it for all other species? It's for all kinds, Seishin. Roro answered while showing her happy grin. It was kept secret from KUROINU as well. I'm glad they were stupid enough to not find this place. Yeah, I'm glad too. Seishin smiled before he sat back and relaxed himself. It would be a shame if they would ruin such a nice establishment like this. Glad that they won't get the chance, since I'm here. Roro smiled as before cuddled close with Seishin. He sat up a bit before watching her cuddle with him. He wrapped his arm around her and kept her close. Seishin. Roro then looked up at him with a blush on her face. This may be a stupid question, but do you have any brothers or sisters in your world? Sadly, no. Seishin replied with a sigh. I'm an only child. Ah. Roro nuzzled her face against his chin. But being with friends like Ichigo, Rukia, Yoruchi, and even with you, Aaliyah, Celestine, Chloe and Olga, as well as the others made me feel like I fit in. Roro's heart skipped a beat when she saw Seishin smile at her after saying such nice things. She smiled and continued to nuzzle his cheek with hers. Though we are soon to be married, can I call you Oniai-chan? Roro asked him, which surprised him for a moment. Seeing her smiling when she asked him that question, he couldn't help but chuckle. Sure, you can call me brother. Seishin kindly replied. In return, she sat up and softly kissed his lips. She then pulled his towel off him and set it on the side before she gently gripped his semi-irked length and stroked it softly, all while looking up at him with a giggle. Brother, you've done so much for me and the others, even with that curse you have, you still did it with a smile on your face. Roro said while kissing his cheek. Just sit back, relax and let me return the favor. Seishin closed his eyes before he sat back as Roro continued to embrace his cheek before trailing down his neck so softly. Roro giggled as she never left her sight on Seishin as she kissed down his toned and scarred chest and abs. It wasn't long until she arrived between his legs, gazing at her. I cannot help that you are so big down here. Roro gazed at Seishin's length with sparkles in her eyes. How can you walk with such a big thing in your pants? Well. 3 things, my dear Roro. Seishin said as he sat on the edge of the hot spring. 1. Shinigami uniforms have quite the room for me to move. 2. It's only big because I got such appealing ladies like you, and 3. Hee. Magic. Seishin, you tease. Roro giggled before she leaned in and licked the tip of his irked length. It wasn't long until she was able to take half of his length in her mouth. Seeing that he was too big for her, Seishin gently pets her head. Take your time, Roro. Seishin smiled at her and she responded in kind with a tail wag. Roro began to bob her head, suckling on his length as best as she could while her tongue licked the underside of his length. Seishin softly moans at the feel of both her tongue and warm lips as well as her hands simultaneously pleasing his length. The young man reached out and softly petted her head again as she continued to suck on his length. The feel of Roro's hands and mouth makes Seishin's length swell up, signaling his coming release. Seishin tried to warn her but he couldn't finish before his load exploded in her mouth. Roro tried her best to swallow as much of it before she began coughing a little. Wow, that was too much. A little warning, next time. Roro cried out to him. Sorry about that, I couldn't help it. You were too good. Seishin said while blushing out of embarrassment. Roro pouted for a few seconds until she smiled when she saw his blush. The halfling giggled before she kissed his lips once more. Ah. Brother, I cannot stay mad at you. Roro said as she nuzzled against his face, all while her legs were rubbing against themselves. Just then Seishin then watched her pull back while looking at him innocently. Brother. Do you still like me even if I'm not as tall or big as the others? Are you kidding? You're the sweetest and toughest halfling I'm glad to have in my HRM. Seishin replied, which made Roro smile. Tall or short, endowed or petite, I like women no matter the size. You're perfect just the way you are. It makes me happy you like me as I am. The halfling blushed a light red until Seishin noticed her legs rubbing and knew what she wanted. He watched her sitting next to him on the smooth rock and spread her legs, showing off her smooth lower region. Please be gentle with me like before, Seishin. Seishin smiled before kissing Roro on the lips before aligning his tip to her pink flower. He held her hand with his right hand while holding her hip with his left hand. He gently pushed the tip inside her. Roro held his hand as tight as she watched his length sliding inside her tight entrance. A minute later, his entire length was inside her. The two nodded before he began sliding his in and out of her cavern. Be brother. Your big thing's hitting me in the back. Stir me up like, moans escaped Roro's lips as she watched her lover move inside her. Bit by bit, she grew more adjusted to his size before she set her eyes on the young man smiling warmly at the halfling. Roro smiled as she sat up and kissed him before she began bouncing on his lap slowly. Seishin released her hand before setting his hands on her rear until she squeaked when Seishin accidentally touched her tail. Seishin. My tail. It's. Seishin knew what she meant as he continued to buck his hips, driving his length inside her wet cavern. As his hot tower continues to go deeper, he softly pets her tail, making her moans grow an octave higher. At the same time, Roro's band of halflings peeked from over the wall to see the two having at it. Brother. Stir me up inside like crazy. Violet eyes met with crimson as the two continued to buck their hips against each other, until Roro took the leap and kissed him with such passion. The two continued for what felt like a half hour until they felt their loins tighten. Roro. You're getting even tighter around me. Seishin said as he felt her inner walls coil so tightly around his thick log. That's because you're amazing, brother. Roro smiled at Seishin as he continued to pnd her inner caverns. Roro's love juices continued to leak out of her entrance despite her entrance being sealed by her lover's mighty cannon. A while later, Roro felt her loins tighten even more at the same time, Seishin's began to swell up. Their CLMX was fast approaching. Roro, I can't hold it. Seishin said while grunting. It's okay. Let it out, inside me. The beastkin replied while moaning and gasping. But what if I? Seishin looked at her with concern, until Roro smiled while brushing her hand against his left side of his face. Don't worry. I'm not in season yet. Roro replied as she giggled before laying against his chest. Go ahead, brother. I want this. Seishin went his fastest, bucking his hips against Roro, until he felt his cannon fire off inside of her. The halfling moaned as loud as she could when she felt his warm milk fill her core. Seishin immediately laid back, feeling worn. Roro followed suit by laying on top of him panting strong. At the same time, she felt his length slide out of her, before their mixed batter began spilling out between their legs. That was. Roro pants while regaining her composure. Amazing? Yeah, I agree. Seishin added. The two shared a chuckle before Roro climbed up and planted plenty of kisses on his cheeks. I can't wait for our wedding, brother. Seishin smiled as Roro smiled brightly. I agree, Roro. I agree. Seishin happily chuckled until he stopped to notice Roro's band of female halflings appeared in front of them, staring at them. Or in their point of view, Seishin's semi-limp length. Ah, Roro. Why didn't you invite us in on that? One halfling whined. Yeah. We want to join in the fun with the hero of Salinas. Another halfling cried. Can we join you, hero? Please. The third one cried before she and the others begged him. Before long, Roro giggled at them before turning to Seishin. I'm up for another round, if you're up for it. Roro said, which made Seishin smile and chuckle. The girls saw his length waking up once more. Well, then. I hope you all can handle me. Seishin chuckled a little. You heard the hero, ladies. Let's get him. Roro cried before Seishin's expression was changed to shock when he was tackled down by Roro and her group of aroused halflings. Gah! Not all at once. Seishin cried out into the night sky. So alright folks, that's all for today. Stay tuned for part 12. Do subscribe, like and share for more such videos. Also check out the story and author Takamagara 2012 on fanfiction.net. Press the bell icon to be notified first on release. See you in the next video. Till then, goodbye.